Hello, friends. It has been very exciting for me as I'm now up to 4 supporters on Patreon. I feel like Sally Fields. You like me. You really like me. I know it may be silly, but like many of you, I do suffer from self doubt, and even just one supporter made my little heart dance. 3, and my mind was blown. And then there were 4. I am dead. So, at the end of this video, I have made a special shout out to my supporters. Also, I don't ever want to make anyone uncomfortable, so I am only using first names. And if you rather I not add your name at all, please let me know. I have so many requests now, but as this is the first request he's ever made, I will now read Rumpelstiltskin for Mike in Japan. I am amazed I was able to hear him call out his request, but now that I know about it, I feel compelled to read to him. Besides, wasn't Rumpelstiltskin played by Robert Carlyle? If I say his character's name enough, does he appear like Beetlejuice? I do hope so. That would be amazing. Well, at any rate, once upon a time. Oh, wonderful! A classic story with a classic beginning. There was a miller who was poor, but he had a beautiful daughter. Now, it happened that he was talking with the king one time. I'm not sure how that happened. Does the king just like talking to random millers? Are they poker buddies? I have questions about this. And in order to make himself seem important, he said to the king, I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold. Wow, where did that come from? I mean, I understand slight exaggerations and little white lies, but that went from 0 to 60 in seconds. That is an art that pleases me, the king replied. If your daughter is as talented as you say, then bring her to my castle tomorrow and I'll put her to the test. Well, of course it's not true. We started by saying a poor miller. If his daughter could spin gold, it would have said a rich miller. Think, king, think. When the maiden was brought to him, he led her into a room that was filled with straw. There he gave her a spinning wheel and spindle and said, Now get to work. If you don't spin this straw into gold by morning, then you must die. You know, I used to think that fairy tales set unrealistic dreams of being rescued by a knight on a white horse. I have no idea where we got that idea because, in my experience so far, it's a bunch of not nice royals taking child brides. Also, while I'm stopped, what did the miller tell his daughter when he sent her to the king? Hey, sunshine, I may or may not have misled the king about your spinning abilities. Have fun, sweetie. Then he locked the door himself, and she remained inside all alone. The miller's poor daughter. You know what? Let's name her, shall we? Susan. Let's call her Susan. Susan sat there feeling close to her wits' end, for she knew nothing about spinning straw into gold, and her fear grew greater and greater. When she began to weep, the door suddenly opened. Oh, did the king grow a heart? And a little man entered. Nope. Evening, Mistress Miller. Why are you weeping so? Oh, answered Susan, I'm supposed to spin straw into gold, and I don't know how. The little man then asked, What will you give me if I spin it for you? My necklace, Susan said. The little man took the necklace and sat down at the wheel, and whiz, 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 3 times round, and the spool was full. Then he inserted another one, and whiz, 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 the second was full. And so it went until morning. When all the straw was spun, and all the spools were filled with gold, the king appeared right at sunrise. And when he saw the gold, he was surprised and pleased. But his heart grew even greedier. Huh. King Midas the Heartless locked the miller's daughter in another room that was even larger than the first, and ordered her to spin all the straw into gold if she valued her life. Susan did not know what to do, and began to weep. Once again the door opened, and the little man appeared and asked, What will you give me if I spin straw into gold for you? The ring on my finger, answered Susan. The little man took the ring, began to work away at the wheel again, and, by morning, he had spun all the straw into shining gold. King Heartless was extremely pleased by the sight, but his lust for gold would clearly collapse his economy. Doesn't he realize that gold's scarcity is one of the reasons it holds value? Just making a bunch of gold will destroy the gold market. That's why De Beers keeps the majority of diamonds locked away, so we don't realize they're just pretty rocks. I'm not liking this king. I mean, seriously, is this set in Spain in the early 1600s? History buff reference. His lust for gold was still not satisfied. So he had Susan brought to an even larger room, filled with straw, and said to her, "You must spin all this into gold tonight. If you succeed, you shall become my wife." Oh boy, being married to a man like you would be great. Just great. Stop spinning now, Susan. I assure you that this is a fate worse than death. To himself, he thought, even though she's just a miller's daughter, I'll never find a richer woman anywhere in the world. Oh, this is so bad. How is the little man the villain in this story? Clearly, the villain is King Heartless. When the maiden was alone, the little man came again for a third time and asked, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold once more?" "I have nothing left to give," answered Susan. Or, a better idea, "How much to get me out of here, little man? Seriously, Susan, now is a good time to run." "Then promise me your first child when you become queen." Who knows if that will ever come, thought Susan. And since she knew of no other way out of her predicament, she promised the little man what he had demanded. In return, the little man spun into gold once again. When the King Heartless came in the morning and found everything as he wished, he married her, and the beautiful miller's daughter became a queen. Poor girl. After a year or so, she gave birth to a beautiful child. I don't find this romantic at all. Between you and me, I kind of hope this kid looks like the mailman. The little man had disappeared from her mind, but now he suddenly appeared in her room and said, "Now give me what you promised." Susan was horrified and offered the little man all the treasures of the kingdom if he would let her keep her child. But the little man replied, "No! Something living is more important to me than all the treasures in the world." Honestly, I kind of agree with him. Except, maybe for King Heartless. Then the queen began to grieve and weep so much that the little man felt sorry for her. "I'll give you 3 days' time," he said. "If you can guess my name by the third day, you shall keep your child." Susan spent the entire night trying to recall all the names she had ever heard. She also sent a messenger out into the country to inquire high and low what other names there were. And the following day, when the little man appeared, she began with Casper, Maliquire, Balsier, and then repeated all the names she knew, one after the other. But to all of them, the little man said, "That's not my name." You know, Now I know why the Grimm brothers hardly ever named their characters. They used up all their names here. On the second day, she had her servants ask around in the neighboring area what names people used, and she came up with the most unusual and strangest names. Like Mike. When the little man appeared, "Is your name ribs of beef, or mutton chops, or laced leg?" Laced leg? Seriously? Maybe the Grimm brothers are just really bad at names. On the third day, the messenger returned and reported, "I couldn't find a single new name. But as I was climbing a high mountain at the edge of the forest where the fox and the hare say good night to each other, I saw a small cottage, and in front of the cottage was a fire, and around the fire danced a ridiculous little man who was hopping on one leg and screeching." Okay, we'll get back to the screeching in a moment. You you have a place in the forest where the fox and the hare say good night to each other? What, after they clock out after a long day of the fox trying to kill the rabbit? Is this like that cartoon, Don't Give Up the Sheep or something? What's more, everybody knows where this place is? Is there a time clock? Seriously, I want to know more about this. But fine, yes, back to the screeching. "Today I'll brew, tomorrow I'll bake, soon I'll have the queen's namesake. Oh, how hard it is to play my game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name." Huh, not a bad rhyme for the Grimm brothers. You can imagine how happy Susan was when she heard the name. And as soon as the little man entered and asked, "What's my name, your highness?" she responded by guessing, "Is your name Coons?" "No." "Is your name Heinz?" "No." "Can your name be Rumpelstiltskin?" Dun dun dun. "The devil told you! The devil told you!" the little man screeched. Wait, does Susan employ the devil as a messenger? Wow, this story just got a lot more interesting. He stamped so ferociously with his right foot that his leg went deep into the ground up to his waist. Then he grabbed the other foot angrily with both hands and ripped himself in two. And, once again, I miss the end. Also, did anyone else notice that King Heartless pieced out as soon as he married Susan? Did he befall an unfortunate accident? Maybe he was crushed to death by all his gold. Or, oh, perhaps he was mysteriously killed in a random collision with a milk carriage. It could have happened. I can dream. I don't know that Rumpelstiltskin really deserved that ending. I mean, sure, he made a contract under duress, but at least he helped Susan, unlike her father or King Heartless. I wonder why he wanted a baby. Maybe he was lonely and just needed company, or maybe he had a falling out with the fox and the hare. You know what? I have decided that the last line of the story is, "And the queen and the milkman lived happily with their baby, often having tea with the fox and the hare after work hours." The end. See how much better that is? At any rate, the end of our video has come. Our next story is a request called Master of All Masters. In fact, I have a request for the next 4 stories. I'm very excited about all of them. 2 for Teresa and 2 for Brink's Journey. In fact, I've started keeping a list. It makes me happy to tell you your stories. Now, if you could please, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Hit the notification bell. Save me from the evil algorithm. And then keep those wonderful comments coming because I love reading them. And finally, if you would like to support me on my Patreon, I will have a link in the description. I have a special thing I did just for my supporters, and I hope you will all like it. I would like to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. I can now live the life I have always dreamed of. My hat is coming off again. You know what? Keep going, keep going.